Hey, what's up, guys? Brian Jeffrey hanging out with you. And today's video is all about how I start a remix. It boils down to the same repeatable process every time. And I'm going to go through those steps with you. And just these questions have kept coming in, whether it's through Instagram, you follow me on Instagram, or you've heard some of my remixes on the Social Distance Dance Party. Or you know me from a previous life when I DJ'd full time and did a lot more remixes and stuff like that. So I thought I would put out this video. I got the stems of a track from my buddy A-Dre. Make sure you go check him out, toss him a like and a follow. And I'm going to be doing what I can for a little bit of a remix. This is going to be a two-part video, so the first part about half an hour, and then the next part I'm going to kind of talk about refinements, mixing, rough mastering, that sort of thing. But I've already got Ableton open here, and we're going to just dive right into it. The first track that you see here is just for my voiceover, and I'm going to do my best not to clip you out and get you all blown out in the ears and stuff like that. I got another camera here so you can see me noodling around on the keyboard, and I'm going to do my best to describe what I'm doing as I go. So the first step is when I'm doing a remix, I always listen to the original. So the original track is called Adicto by A-Dre, so we're just going to jump on over to YouTube and see if we can find it, because I'm pretty sure he put it up. A-Dre Adicto. Hey, there it is. Okay, perfect. Let's give this a listen. Yeah,
it already sounds so dirty. It's great. Since we are working with
Rocket Power Sound. And what I'm doing when I'm listening to this is
Yo me levanto cada día a medianoche, pensando si estás despierta a las 12.
Just going to turn it down a little bit so I can talk. The very first thing I'm going to do is find the original BPM. So I go to this really useful website called Tap for BPM, and you can just basically spam the space bar to determine the tempo. I'm betting 95 to 100. Let's see. So the value that I want is this nearest whole. So I'm going to set my Ableton project to 101 or 102 and see how that turns out. And I'm just going to pause that, and I'll come back to that in a minute. So we jump over here to Ableton, and we just click and drag it down to 102. I think it's 102. It sounds like 102. I know that this is a Vex Kobo beat, so he probably set it at 102 because he likes those nice even numbers. So we got that. And then I already have the stems package from Vex in my downloads, so I'm just going to go grab those here. And let's see, where are they? Here they are. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the submix, which is basically everything before his master channel. I'm going to bring it in here and make sure that my tempo is correct. That's the first thing I'm going to do before I bring in any of the other stems. So let's do that. Oh, it looks quiet. It's probably because he put all his mastering on the main channel. So to check whether or not I got the tempo right, already you can see whether or not the grid lines kind of line up. But we want to listen to that with the metronome. And I always kind of split it right before I see the first major transient, like the first drum hit or whatever. I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to get this as tight as I possibly can. I'm going to trim the region as tight as I possibly can. And I'm going to set it at the beginning of the second phrase or the second group of 4 bars, because I know that there's an intro to this. And then I'm just going to listen, play it back. Let's see.
Yo me levanto cada día a medianoche, pensando si estás despierta a las 12. A ver si yo le mando un.
Okay, so I was wrong. It already, like, the tempo has fallen off. And you can see that the grid line is ahead of where the kick drum transient is. So we're going to have to slow it down. Let's try to drop it to 101 and see. Okay, looks like it lines up a little bit better. Let's take a listen a little bit longer.
Yo me levanto cada día a medianoche, pensando si estás despierta a las 12. A ver si yo le mando un mensaje, que yo te quiero ver sin molestarte. Desde el día que adicto, adicto es adicto, adicto es amor.
Yeah, so that sounds pretty much bang on. And from here on in, I'm going to just take this submix, I'm going to drag it out. And from here on in, I know that this whole song was originally composed at a tempo of 101 beats per minute. So let's save our work, actually, more than anything. I'm gonna, go into cue ball. Let's create a new folder. I like to create a new folder because then when I put stems in there, it's all kind of centralized into one spot. So I'm going to call this Adicto Remix 2 because I already tried to do this, and then I decided this would be a good candidate for a video. Cool. All right. So knowing that the whole beat was composed at 102 beats per minute, the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to add in tempo markers to this master track. And then that way, when I start to play around with the tempo here, I can move the tempo up and down. Ableton will automatically compress or expand the whole submix track, and I can then addition what it could sound like at different speeds. So we're going to do that now. I probably will do a whole other video on tracks that have different tempos, because different or dynamic tempo is a whole other thing. You see it in live music all the time. But with this type of music where you know a guy's using a drum machine, he's using a DAW, it was done in a studio with a very set tempo, this is the process that I would use. If it's live music, it would be very different, and I may do another video about that later. But because I don't record a lot of live music anymore, this is the kind of workflow that's standard for me, like every time. And I typically do this in under like 2 minutes, like I'll have started. So you open up the track and you enable warp. And one thing to note is I have under my preferences, under warp preferences, I have auto warp long samples off. And what that does is allow me to have more control over the track. So when I enable warp, it's just going to drop one right at the very beginning of the song, right? And it kind of, you can see where it thinks there should be some tempo markers, but you don't need to worry about it when you're doing it the way I've done. So as long as you already have determined what your tempo was right out of the gate, this process is going to work for you every time. So you only need 2 tempo markers. You put one at the beginning and one at the end. So I'll just drop one by double clicking right here at the end. And now Ableton knows the time mapping for this entire song all the way up to bar 95. And what I can do now, if I just loop the first 4 bars. So Vex is playing the chords here. Sound very nice. Just the intro. So now I can crank up the speed. I'm gonna go really really high so you guys can see the difference. But it will automatically map it for me. Right? So jump up to 125. Now we know that 125, 126 is fast. That's that's 25 beats per minute faster than the original track. So it may not sound great. If I play back where there's words, and knowing that Spanish is much more complex, it's more syllabically dense than the English language. And typically when you hear a Latin singer, Spanish, Portuguese, all that kind of stuff, it's going to be very fast, lots of syllables packed into a bar. So it's probably not going to sound that great this fast. But let's have a listen.
Yo me levanto cada día a medianoche, pensando si estás despierta a las 12. A ver si yo
Turn
le
off the
mando un
metronome for a
mensaje,
sec.
que yo te quiero ver sin molestarte. Yo me levanto cada día a medianoche, pensando si estás despierta a las 12.
Hey,
A ver si
that's
yo le
fast
mando
to
un
me.
mensaje.
So let's see. If we drop it down to 120, maybe we can feel the words a little bit better, right?
Yo me levanto cada día a medianoche, pensando si estás despierta a las 12. A ver si yo le mando un mensaje, que yo te quiero ver sin molestarte. Yo me levanto cada día a medianoche.
Okay. 120 beats per minute. I wouldn't go any faster than this when doing a remix for this type of vocally sung track. And then you have to think about, where is this going to get played? Like, is this going to get played in a club? DJs are notorious for taking a song and then playing it faster than the than the version that they get on MP3 or CD or vinyl. They're always going to speed it up. That's a classic DJ trick. So if I speed this up to 120, and I imagine that a DJ is going to speed it up even more once he gets it in the DJ booth, he's probably going to end up playing it back at 125. And then I know that that's too fast. So it might be better for me to begin the composition of my remix at 115 beats per minute. So that if a DJ speeds it up, and most turntables and CDJs and that sort of thing, they have a range of like plus or minus 10. Anything more than that, you start to get audio artifacting and stuff like that. So they do that for some of the transitions, but typically when they're running the track, plus 6, plus 8 might be the fastest that they'll go. Okay, so if I compose the remix at 115 BPM, where it's at right now, I can still make out all the syllables that he's singing, and I know that if a DJ plays it, then it's still going to go into like the 120 range and still probably be okay. The other thing that you could do, like, I'm working within the constraints of the language in which this track is sung, but the other thing that you could do is you could say, to hell with the Spanish. I want this track, or I want this remix to be 120 and 100 or 128 beats per minute. And you're going to compose your remix all around that, which maybe means that you're going to slow down the tempo at a breakdown so that you can fit in the words and they don't sound garbled, or you're just going to sample portions of the word and it's going to be more of a progressive type of instrumental with only a little bit of words going in. For my remix, I want it to still be more upbeat than the original, but I also want to include the original vocals. So I've landed on 115 beats per minute. So that's what I'm going to work with. And that takes way longer to explain than it would be for me to set it up. Again, like, I would do this in the first 2 minutes of the project and away I go. So that's tempo mapping. So that's step 1. So step 2 is now going to be to bring in certain portions of the stems that I want. And to effectively do this, if you're lucky if you have the stems, you might only have the a cappella. But we're going to go back to the original project tempo. And we're going to repeat the process that I did for the submix with the other stems that I need. So I'm going to go grab my stems here. Looks like we got a whole bunch of vocals that are named right here. VRS. So those are verses. Maybe outro. I don't know. So if the engineer did it right, if I drag these all into Ableton like this, and I want to hold down, so if I'm not if I just drag it in, you can see that there's only one blue line. And what it's going to do is it's going to take all those stems and put them out sequentially. But if you hold down the command option or command button on your keyboard, it's going to drop them to separate tracks like that. And because I know Vex is a pretty good engineer, because he and I have worked together so much, the stems should be exactly the same length as the submix. And if we listen to it with the submix, the vocals should actually line up. Let's start it here.
Yo me levanto cada día a medianoche, pensando si estás despierta a las 12. A ver, un mensaje que yo te quiero ver sin molestarte. Yo me levanto.
Perfect. So it looks like I've got enough for vocals here. I would normally spend a bunch of time listening through to make sure. One thing I can see already is I'm missing vocals kind of like right in this section here. I'm just looking down my grid. So I got to go find those. They're probably these ones. Hook main, hook harmony, hook doubles, all that kind of stuff. Again, you do this eventually enough, working with stems and working with the same kind of producers and stuff, you get to understand their naming conventions and how they bring in their tracks. So yeah, now I can see that I've got hooks here. So I just want to group my vocals together a little bit more. So now that I've got the audio together, I just drag this guy up. This guy has another piece of audio that looks like it's at the same time. So I'm going to drag that up. Now these guys are all grouped together. That's good. That's all grouped together. That's going to be a harmony 2. So that's really good. So the hooks are all together. You got verse doubles, verse 3 main, verse 2 main, verse 2 main, verse 1 main. Looks like some flourishes, outro, that sort of thing. Okay, so this is all good. This is all I need. So I'm going to take all of these and I'm going to select them all. I'm going to shift and click, select them all, and I'm going to group them together. That's the very first thing I need to do. The reason why I do that is because I like to have all my vocals together. So I'm just going to put those on a vocal bus. Sweet. And now you can see them collapsed all on this nice vocal bus. Sweet. And I'm going to minimize my submix. I'm going to take these and I'm going to do exactly what I did the first time around. I'm going to enable warp and then just click over here and do the same thing all the way down. And that will allow me, when I solo the vocals, I can then speed it up to 115 and I can be sure that they sound the way I need them to sound when they're at speed, right? Like I've already decided that I'm going to do the remix at 115. So I'm just going to double check before I start writing music, before I start laying drums down, before I start determining what the chord progression is. I always try to tempo map the original vocals. Now, when you have nice clean vocals like this, it's easy. If you have an a cappella where all the harmonies and everything are bounced down to 1, if you're working with a little bit older of a vocal sample, like let's see, Michael Jackson, for example. If you're remixing Michael Jackson, Michael would often record in what's called a bit of a swing. So he would not always be bang on beat. And it's a trick that comes out of rhythm and blues and jazz. And it really gives this sense of anticipation to the music. And I'm just giving you some like background of music as I go through this exercise. It's a little bit painstaking at first, and then there we are. Okay, sweet. So it gives us anticipation, this feeling of tension, or this feeling of release as you're listening to a song. So I'm going to solo my Oops, I can't do it like that. I wish I knew how to solo save a track in Ableton. I'm going to have to figure that out. Instead of solo, I'm going to have to mute the submix. So let's do that, and then let's listen to...
Yo me levanto cada día a medianoche, pensando si estás despierta a las 12. A ver si yo le...
So now, if I crank this up to 115, here, I'll expand this so you can see the audio do it. So you can kind of understand what I'm doing here. Watch, the audio is going to just stretch. Oh, and I can see that I missed a track here. So I got to go back. I got to double check. This guy is good. This guy is good. This guy I forgot. Cool, cool, cool. All right. Now let's see. If I crank it up to 115.
Que yo te quiero ver sin molestarte desde el día que te conocí.
So I still missed one. So I gotta get back. I'm gonna go through one at a time. That guy's good. That guy's good. And I'm just looking for the yellow markers. That guy, I missed that one. Okay. Ah, there's one there. I missed it. Good, 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 good. Now, it has to have a start and an end marker for this warping, right? And the only reason why I'm going through this exercise is because typically a remix is going to be tempo warped or tempo mapped. It's going to have a change in tempo in some way, shape, or form. Okay, those look a lot better. Now let's have a listen.
Yo me levanto cada día a medianoche, pensando si estás despierta a las 12. A ver si yo le mando un mensaje, que yo te quiero ver sin molestarte desde el día que te conocí.
All right, cool. The next thing that you want to be doing is you want to select all of them, and you want to be using Ableton's Complex Pro algorithm for this, and that way you're getting the best math being done on it. So we're gonna make sure you turn up the formants, turn up the envelope, and it's gonna sound a lot more natural, just faster.
Adicto esa mujer, adicto de su cara y sus ojos, su sonrisa y
add a little bit of reverb so we like the sound of it.
Su sonrisa y el color de su piel. Adicto esa mujer, adicto de su cuerpo y sus labios y su forma en que ella me hace enloquecer. Cuando la...
There, it's got like a real stadium vibe to it. Cool. So that's tempo mapping. I mean, that took me 15, maybe 20 minutes in, and it, again, it's like the major first third of the whole remix. I need one more thing, though. I'm going to go back down to 101, and I'm going to see if I can't find the stem called chords. There we go. This is going to help me. It's going to speed things along a little bit. Now, you're not going to have this if all you have is an a cappella, right? But if I listen to the chords right now, let's listen to those by themselves. So clearly the original had a ton of reverb. I'll just play that back. Yeah, right? So I'm going to use this to kind of basically understand the original chord progression of the song. Now you can cheat. I'm going to show you the quick way to cheat. I'm going to find the first 4 chords, because typically a chord progression is going to be 4 chords, 3 chords, or sometimes 6 to 8. But always those types of numbers. You might have some passing chords in there, but especially with this kind of music, it's 4 chords. So we're going to right click here, and we're going to go convert harmony to new MIDI track. And what Ableton's doing here is it's trying to analyze, based on the music that's in there, is trying to analyze it and tell me what those chords are. So it's going to break them up, and it's literally going to show me in MIDI what those chords may have been when they were played by the original producer. So if we listen to them back, we'll see if they're anywhere close. Could be. Could be. All right. We'll take this out, which is the original chord, and we'll play them back again. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to extend them for the duration of each bar, right? We've got 4 beats here to extend them for the duration of each bar. And I'm going to listen to them back over the course of, or with the reverb original on top. And basically all I'm doing is making sure that Ableton got the chords right, which it sounds like they did. So I'm going to get rid of the original chord track. And now I know what the original chord progression is. It looks like B minor. So let's see if I play it back. So B minor. DFA is what we want. It's an interesting progression. And then it looks like we got an inverted A chord there. A, C sharp, E. So it's going to be like this. I mean, I might not have played it this way, but, you know, Vex Kobo likes to do some interesting things, and it's cool. It works. It works. It totally works, right? So let's see if I can play it out, right? No, it's going to be D, G, B. Okay. So that pretty much brings me to the first half. So I've got my chords laid out. I know what the chords are. I know what the tempo is going to be. So I'm going to take those chords. I'm going to drop it up to 115. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find a different synth that I like. Let's go with Avenger. I used to have this synth called Nexus, and Avenger is much similar, but because Nexus doesn't work on the version of Mac that I'm using, yeah, there's this beast right here. So, ooh, that's nice. So we'll just use that to listen to the chords underneath A-Dre and see if we like him. So we'll go like this, loop them. So already we can see that like it's kind of muddy down here, so I'm just going to take those and I'm going to put them up to a different octave, right? Like even that inversion is ugly, so so with this G, like the first chord is a power chord, right? He's only playing B, which B minor would be B, D, and F sharp. So he's playing a power chord, which is only B and F, which I like. I like the way that it sounds. So this one I'm going to turn into a power chord as well. But the power chord, I think, is a G and a D. So let's see what it sounds like with this guy gone. All right, and then let's get rid of that low E. Cool. That sounds okay. And that's just like the rough chords. Okay. Now that I got the chords down, it's a matter of going into there and seeing what fits, what works. Like let's start with an M1 organ. Let's see.
Yo me levanto cada día a medianoche, pensando si estás despierta a las 12. A ver si yo le mando un mensaje, que yo te quiero ver sin molestarte. Yo me levanto cada día a medianoche, pensando si estás despierta a las 12. A ver si yo le mando un mensaje, que yo te quiero ver sin molestarte. Yo me levanto cada día a medianoche, pensando si estás despierta a las 12. A ver si yo le mando un mensaje, que yo te quiero ver sin molestarte. Yo me levanto cada día a medianoche, pensando si estás despierta a las 12. A ver si yo le mando un mensaje, que yo te quiero ver sin molestarte. Yo me levanto cada día.
So the original keyboard that was used, like from the original track, sounds like it was a Rhodes. So I just grabbed one that was similar. I want to listen to the chords again.
Yo me levanto cada día a medianoche, pensando si estás despierta a las 12. A ver si yo le mando un mensaje, que yo te quiero ver sin.
And that low E is there, but I want to hear what it sounds like without.
A ver si yo le mando un mensaje, que yo te quiero ver sin molestarte.
Perfect. So, again, the way that this song is written, chances are good if I take those same 4 chords, and they're just triads right now, but if I take those same 4 chords and I duplicate them across the entire song, I'm going to have what we call the chord bed. So I'm just going to do that, and I'm going to listen kind of like halfway through the song, make sure that it sounds okay.
Adicto esa mujer, adicto de su cara y sus ojos, su sonrisa y el color de su piel. Adicto esa mujer.
Okay, that sounds good. So, this is pretty much the end of part 1, you guys. And what I've done is I've brought in the vocal stems. I've tempo mapped them. So I took the original tempo and I increased it to the roughly the desired remix tempo that I want. And then I've brought in the chords. I've done a little bit of music theory analysis, determined what the chord progression is, and I've validated that my chords work throughout the entire song. So now I know the rules that I have to work with in my remix. So from here on in, it's the creative part. It's working within those song constraints, within the key, within the chords, within the tempo to get a sweet remix. So that's all the setup that I need to do. From here on in, it's picking the right pieces of the puzzle, like the right bass, the right synths, the right drums to get myself a remix. And it's completely creative. You know, I could be going for a tropical feel. I could be going for a more like up-tempo housey kind of feel. We'll see where that takes me in the next video. So make sure you smash the like button, smash the subscribe button. Look forward to reading all your comments, and I'll check you in the next video. Thanks so much. Bye for now.